In the last lecture, we just overview about the 12 principle of green chemistry. Here we are going to consider one by one in detail. So now let us consider the first principle, that is principle to prevent the waste. So according to the green principle, the this this principle states that it is better to prevent waste than to treat or clean up waste after it has been created. So actually, this state simply states that chemical processes should be optimized to produce the minimum amount of waste possible. A metric known as environmental factor was developed by the scientists to calculate the amount of waste a process created, and is calculated by simply dividing the mass of waste to the production process produces by the mass of product obtained. With a lower E factor being better, the drug production processes historically and very high E factor, but the application of some of the other green chemistry principle can help to reduce this. Other methods of assessing amount of waste, such as comparing the mass of the raw material to that of the product, are also used. So there are some methods are there. You should identify the byproducts, quantify if possible what amount of they will form. So report the convergence. What are the convergence we are going to consider? They should be reported. Selectivity and productivity. We have to determine the selectivity of the formation of other byproduct also and their productivity also. So again, we have to establish a full mass balance for the processes. We should quantify the catalyst and solvent losses. So in that case, by preventing these steps, we can prevent the waste. So, or we can stop the waste production, right? So this is first principle. Now, second is principle is that atomic economy. So atomic economy is a measure of the amount of atoms from the starting material that are present in the useful products at the end of chemical processes. Side products form reactions that aren't useful can lead to a lower atomic economy and more waste. In many ways, atomic economy is a better measure of reaction efficiency than the yield of the reaction. The yield compares the amount of useful product obtained compared to the amount you would theoretically expected from the calculations. Therefore, the process that maximize the atomic economy are preferred. So basically, synthetic methods. What are the synthetic methods are there or we are going to develop that should be designed to maximize the incorporation of all material used in the process and into the final products. Here it is, you can see that this is a simple oxidation reaction of benzene and the production of phthalic anhydride. So here it is, you can get your product. So this is expected product, but at the same time there is a side products, right? Byproducts are there. Water is waste and CO2 is there. Now another reaction is there. This is again the same reaction, that is the formation of phthalimide, but very different method. So right, we are going to use that particular phthalic acid in absence of this naphthalene. Okay, so here it is again, the third method is that. So you can see that this orthomethyl toluene is oxidized and gives phthalic anhydride, same product, but there is a byproduct. So apart from these three reactions, only two reactions are considered as a good atomic economy because they have less product. Here it is, there is no byproduct. Here it is, water is a byproduct that can be removed by filtering or any other physical method. Okay, but in the first case, these byproducts are there. So due to this, the atomic economy of this reaction is going to be decreases. So this is not considered as a green reaction. Okay. Next one is another example is there. This is the synthesis method for the famous drug that is ibuprofen, right? You can see that this is the Boots company that is going to be synthesized. This final drug is here, ibuprofen. So here it is, you can see the production of 2 bottles of ibuprofen generated 3 bottles of waste. So the production of this particular drug in 2 bottles will generate the 3 bottle of waste. So that is useless. Okay, and another is same ibuprofen drug is developed by the BSC industry. Same drug, but here it is. You can see that 3 bottles of ibuprofen generate less than 1 bottle of it. So that is the good one. So in this way, we can increase the atomic economy of the water. Okay. So next principle is, that is third one, is use and production of less hazardous chemicals. While performing chemical reaction, we should take care of the uses of hazardous chemicals, or we can consider less hazardous chemical for the reaction. Here you can see that the polycarbonate synthesis. This is the famous one reaction. So this, here it is, while synthesizing this polycarbonate, here it is, we are going to use the phosgene gas. So that phosgene gas is very toxic, corrosive, which requires large amount of DCM, that is dichloromethane, and with contaminated with the chlorine impurities. Okay, but the another alternative method is this. This is a carcinogenic and toxic gas. We are going to use a less hazardous chemicals, right? So the alternative method is that there is no phosgene gas, even though we are going to synthesize this type of polycarbonate. So such type of invention or methods can be considered for this under this principle. So what is the principle? Use and production of less hazardous chemicals. We are going to use phosgene free chemical methods, right? Here it is, in the first case, we are going to use a phosgene as a one of the reactant. So that is toxic, corrosive. But in the case of alternative method, this particular gas is totally removed. So there is no hazardous chemicals, or we can say that we are going to use less hazardous method, right? So this is the third principle. Now in the fourth one, we are going to design a safer chemicals for the synthesis. Okay, so what you are going to design, any chemical that should be safe for the environment, human beings. Okay, so basically the chemists must aim to produce a chemicals that fulfill their role to be medical, industrial, or otherwise, but which also have minimal toxicity to the humans and environment. The design of safer chemicals target require knowledge of how chemicals act in our bodies and in the environment. In some cases, a degree of toxicity to animals or humans may be unavoidable, but alternatives should be sought out. So here it is, you can say that the chemical products should be designed to preserve efficiency of function while reducing toxicity. Whatever chemical product you are going to synthesize, that should be designed to preserve their efficiency while functioning, right? The second one is that synthetic methodology should be designed to generate substances that produces or possesses less harmful or toxic products. Whatever the chemical method you are going to synthesize or design, while designing that method, the processes which produces less harmful or toxic products. That is the thing. Third one is the principle focuses on the choosing reagent that pose the least risks and generate only safe byproducts. So while performing a reaction, we are going to use some reagents, right? So that choice of reagent is also the main thing. Okay, so we generate only safe products. For example, in the manufacture of polystyrene, CFCs, that is chlorofluorocarbons, which contribute to the ozone depletion and global warming, are replaced by CO2. In the earlier case, while production of polystyrene, CFCs were used. But nowadays, that CFC is going to be replaced by the CO2 gas. So that, okay. So next one is use of safe solvents and auxiliaries. So auxiliary means solvents, you can know, right? Solvents which able to dissolve the given material. Okay, and auxiliary means these are the substances that can use along with the solvents, like just like a separating reagent, etc. We can call it as auxiliaries. So the use of auxiliaries should be made unnecessary whenever possible. And okay, sometimes while performing the reaction, there are students or some researchers, students, PhD scholars, they use unnecessary this type of substances. So use the substances or auxiliary whenever there is you possible to use, right? So third one, next one is the solvent selected for particular reaction should not cause any environmental pollution or hazardous. Whatever the solvent you are going to use for that reactions, that should not cause any environmental pollution. Just like as benzene, alcohol. Benzene is a carcinogenic compound, right? So we should avoid the use of benzene. The next one is one major problem with many solvent is that their volatility that maybe damages environmental and human health. So the most of the volatile compound are very dangerous. So we have to keep they apart from us. So the next one is to avoid this many reactions are carried out in safer green solvents like ionic liquids, supercritical CO2. So these are the alternatives for the other solvents, right? So the ionic liquids, supercritical CO2 fluids, etc., which maintain the solvency of the material and are also non-volatile. So they are the good solvents. Okay. Next one is the design for energy efficiency. So energy intensively processes are forward upon in green chemistry, where it is possible, it is better to minimize the energy used to create a chemical products by carrying out reaction at room temperature and pressure. Consideration of reaction design also have to be made. Removal of solvents or processes to remove impurities can increases the energy required and by association increasing the process environmental impact. So under this principle, the energy requirement should be recognized for the environmental and economical impacts and should be minimized. Synthetic method should be conducted at ambient temperature and pressure. Whatever the reaction you are going to conduct, that should be conducted at ambient temperature, means at low temperature, mostly at room temperature you can consider, and by the use of pressure also. In any chemical synthesis, the energy required should be kept at low. For example, if the starting material is soluble in the particular solvent, that means the reaction mixture has to be heated till the reaction is complete. If the final product is impure, it has to be purified by distillation or recrystallization. So all these steps involve the use of high amount of energy, which is uneconomical, right? So in this way, we should avoid the use of energy unnecessarily, so we can save the energy. Okay. Next one is use of renewable feedstocks. Feedstocks means it is a raw material used for the reaction. Okay, a raw material or feedstock should be renewable rather than the depleting, where the technical or economical practice. So the perspective of this principle is largely towards the petrochemicals. Chemical products derived from the crude oil, these are the used as a starting material in range of chemical processes, but are non-renewable and can be depleted in some years. Upcoming years, we can say that processes can be made more sustainable by the use of renewable feedstock, such as chemicals derived from the biological sources. Now, recently, we can say that the prices of the petrol and diesel is going to be very high. So the government trying to create alternative resources for the green energy sources. You can say the renewable sources. So this comes in under this particular principle. So renewable feedstocks are often made from the agriculture products. They are very easy. Or are the waste of other processes. Depleting feedstock are made from the fossil fuels, petroleum, natural gases, or coal, and or mine. For example, substances like CO2, which is generated from the natural sources, and the methane gas are considered as a renewable starting material. So here it is, you can say that this is a polylactic acid. So and these bottles, these plastic bottles are created from the polylactic acid, and which is created by the plants, which is a renewable sources, right? You can say that the beverages find out natural fit with the nature works. Okay, this is an article which is published in US journal, right? So next one is we are going to reduce the derivative. This is the eighth one principle. So while performing the reaction, there is a need of to derivatize the material, but Unnecessary derivatization like blocking groups, protection, deprotection, temporary modification should be avoided whenever it is possible. It is necessary. Sometimes we have to protect the groups, we have to block the groups, we have to deprotect the groups, but unnecessarily that can be avoided. So which helps to increase the yield of product. Otherwise, it decreases as the number of step increases, the yield of that particular product is going to be decreases. So avoiding using blocking or protecting groups or any temporary modification if possible. Derivatives use additional reagents and generates more wastage. Whenever you're going to use a derivatization which uses more reagents, and due to this more waste will be produced, so that atomically impact on your total yield. So the two synthetic steps are added each time while protecting and deprotecting. When one is used, overall yield and atomic economic, as earlier said, that decreases. So instead of more selective and better alternative, synthetic sequence that eliminates the need of for functional group protection should be adopted. So protecting groups are often used in the chemical synthesis, as you know, as they can prevent the alternation of certain parts of the molecule structure during a chemical reaction, while allowing transformation to be carried out on other part of structure. However, these steps requires extra reagent and also increases the amount of waste. A process produces an alternative that has been explored in some processes, and as an enzyme are highly specific. So they can be used as a target particular parts of the molecule structure without the need for the use of protection groups or other derivatives. So for the derivatization, alternative is that use of enzyme. Okay. So next one is a catalysis. That is ninth one principle. The catalytic reagent, which is selective as much as possible. The catalytic reagents are superior to stoichiometric reagents. Use of a catalytic facility transformed without the catalytic being consumed in the reaction and without being incorporated in the product. The use of catalysts can be enabled reaction with higher atomic economy. Catalysts themselves are used up by chemical processes and as such can be recycled many times over and don't contribute to the waste. They can allow for the utilization of reaction which would not produce under the normal condition, but which also produce less waste. So here it is, you can see that this is a reaction better for hydrogenation. So this is a propane, we are going to hydrogenate in presence of catalyst. So it gives in presence of nickel catalyst, it gives this propane, right? So this is a propane which has multiple bond. We are going to hydrogenate it in presence of nickel, and it gives a propane which very in high yield. So the catalyst produces more yield, incorporation of all the compounds involved in the starting material, which increases the atomic economy. So overall yield is going to be increases. The reaction becomes feasible in those cases where no reaction is normally possible. By the use of catalysts, the reactions are feasible which are not possible in absence of catalysis. So better utilization of starting material and minimum waste product formation. Due to the use of catalyst, the starting material is totally utilized for the formation of product, hence which creates less wastage or minimizes the waste production. Next one is the design for degradation. Whatever we are going to design, that should be degraded into the nature without producing any harmfulness. Okay, so the chemical product should be designed so that at the end of their function, they do not persist in the environment and break down the inconscious degradation products. Ideally, chemical products should be designed so that once they have fulfilled their purpose, they break down into harmless products and don't have negative impact on the environment. So whatever the chemical products we are going to produce, that should be after the fulfillment of their purpose, that should be break down into the harmless products. So these products should be automatically break down in their harmless products. Okay, so or they don't have any negative impact on the environment. So the most of the organic pollutants are products which do not break down and accumulate in the persistent in the environment. They are typically halogenated compounds, with the DDT being the most famous example Where possible, these chemicals should be replaced in their uses with the chemicals that are more easily broken down by water, UV light, or biodegradation. So here it is, some examples are there. Sulfonated detergents, alkyl benzene sulfonated, 1950s and 60s, these papers were used this particular compound in the detergents. Foam in swell plants, givers and steams. So introduction of alkyl group into the chain increases degradation. So chlorofluorocarbon, use of chlorofluorocarbons do not break down in the atmospheric, and they are totally contribute to the destruction of ozone layer. So use of DDT also, insecticides like DDT tend to bioaccumulate in many plant and animal species and incorporate into the food chain, resulting in the population of decline of beneficial insects and animals. So the last second principle is that real-time pollution prevention. So analytical methodologies need to be further developed to allow for real-time in-process monitoring and control prior to the formation of hazardous substances. So the monitoring a chemical reaction as it is occurring can help prevent release of hazardous and pollutant substances due to the accident or unexpected reactions. With real-time monitoring, warning signs can be spotted and the reaction can be stopped or managed before such an event occurs. So real-time analysis for chemists is the process of checking the process of chemical reaction as it happens or not. Knowing when your product is done can save a lot of waste time and energy. So the last principle is that safer chemistry for accident prevention. Working with chemical always carries a degree of risk. However, if hazards are managed well, the risk can be minimized. This principle clearly links with the number of other principles that discusses hazardous products or reagents. Where possible, exposure to hazards should be eliminated from processes and should be designed to minimize the risk where the elimination is not possible. So the substances and the form of substance used in chemical process should be chosen to minimize the potential for chemical accidents, including releases, explosion, and fires. Design chemicals and their forms, solid, liquid, or any gas, to minimize the potential for the chemical accidents, including exposure. Example of such incident due to the lack of such measures: December 3rd December of 1984, poisonous gas leaked from Union Carbide factory, killing thousands instantly and injuring many more. Up to the 20,000 people have died as a result of exposure. More than 1,20,000 still suffering from the element caused by the exposure, which occurs in Bhopal, which is in MP, Madhya Pradesh. So these are the 12 principles. While performing any kind of chemical reaction, we should go these 12 principles. Now, I know it is very difficult to go this 12 principle under this 12 principle, but we can minimize the principle of green chemistry is that use less hazardous substances, produce less wastes. Okay. Thank you.